My best advice if you want to be a dungeon master today on A Gamer's Guide to Life. Hi, I am Bill Kenower, award-winning game writer, author, and creativity coach. And today I hope you hit like and subscribe because we're going to talk about being a DM. That's right. Maybe it's for you, maybe it isn't. But if you're thinking about it, if you've tried it out a little bit and you find it difficult, here's my best advice. Look, there is tons of advice out there on the internets about how to do this. So I'm going to give you my basics and I hope to help you. These are the things that I've learned over the last 45, 50 years of playing. And most of that time playing was spent being a dungeon master. So the first thing is the rules. Do you have to know the rules? Yes, it would be a good idea that if you know the rules. I don't think you want to be in a position where you don't know a rule or know the rules as well as your players do. You want to know it at least as well as they do. And you certainly don't want to spend a ton of time leafing through rule books trying to figure things out. So, what do you do if you don't know a rule? Well, first of all, you could always just improv it. If you don't know, how to do jumping and you don't know where it is in 5e, especially, which is a bigger, denser tome, then maybe make it up. But if you make up a rule, what I do when I have to improvise something, because usually I know the rules pretty well, but sometimes my players want to do something, they want to jump on the back of the dragon, and I'm like, well, there's no rule for that, so I have to improvise something. But what I always say to my players when I improvise a rule is I say, I reserve the right to change this tomorrow or the next time we play if I feel the rule I came up with on the fly is imbalanced, if it makes the game too easy or makes the game too hard. So I always say every time I make up a rule, I say I reserve the right to change it because I want to make sure it keeps the game balanced. The other thing I don't know I do if I don't know a rule is I say, well, here's what I'm going to do. Right now, we'll do this. Let's just say it's jumping. Okay, well, I'll have you roll a strength roll. And if you get this far, if you make the roll, I'll say you make it. Or you can jump as far as your many feet as your strength is. But I might say to one of my players who I know are savvy with the rule books, I might say, hey, look it up in the meantime, and just so we know, and then maybe the next time we have to do it, we'll go by whatever the rules are in the rule book. I don't mind doing that at all. I also don't mind if a player overrules me at some point. I was playing Shadow Dark, and I would have the players who are always in initiative and they're crawling around the dungeon, and I kept them always in initiative, always moving around the dungeon. And at one point, my friend Peter, who I should point out, is not just a rules lawyer. He's a rules judge. He's a federal judge. Oh my God, I know it's crazy, but he is. So he likes rules. He's good at reading rules. And nothing pleases me more than overruling him. That's right, overruling the judge. Anyway, he's pretty good with the rules. And he was flipping through as he is wont to do. And he said, hey, Bill, I just noticed there's this thing called regroup, where the party can call a regroup and all go, say, to the room where the mermaid statue is. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. Fine, you can all regroup if you want. I have no problem with that, of changing the rules as I've been playing them if some player finds a rule in the rule book. But in general, I want to know the rules. And I think one way to know the rules for your game, and this connects to the next tip I have for you, uh, involves preparation. And that is to say, you will have a sense as you run a more than one game, for instance, or even if you're only running one game, you have a sense of who the characters are, what they can do, and what they're going to run into. And so part of your preparation and part of my preparation involves learning rules that might come up in the course of the game. So if swimming might come up, like my characters rarely have to swim, but if they do, I want to know the rules for it. So I will go back and check the rules on swimming for whatever game system I'm using if it looks like there's a big body of water coming. Or holding their breath underwater, that's always a thing. Or maybe I think there's going to be a wrestling match for some reason. I rarely do grappling. It's kind of a tough rule to adjudicate, I find in a lot of rule systems. So I'll double check that. Okay, how does grappling work again? So I will use preparation to fine tune my knowledge of the rules. Because again, I don't need to know everything, but if I know certain things are going to come up, certain kind of saving throws and certain kind of special situations, whether it's climbing or falling or swimming. This is the kind of stuff that often comes up, or a special spell like teleport or walk on water. I will look them up. And if the players are getting new spells, sometimes I'll look those up too. Which brings me to point number two. Tip number two, preparation. If you want to be a DM, I think you have to like to prepare. I don't know any way around this. Now, how much you prepare is up to you, but whether you're running your own adventure, what we call a homebrew, I guess, or running a pre-written adventure, it still requires a fair amount of preparation. I've never done the math on it, but I think it would be close to 2 to 3 hours of preparation per hour of gaming. It's probably in there somewhere. And you just have to like it. I think you've got to enjoy it, or DMing is probably not for you because I don't know how to improv an entire game. I can't anyway, or I've never tried it and I don't want to. Now, when I have run pre-written adventures, which until recently I never did, but for various reasons, I recently ran the Mines of Phandelver, a 5e campaign, because it reminded me a little bit of the kind of stuff I might design. And I ran the first, the sort of the adventure, the campaign that is given to you in the box set of Dragonbane. I ran that because I wanted to learn how to play the game. I wanted to see how they designed adventures for it. And in both cases, the big challenge for me as a game master was remembering what was in all the rooms because I would read it, but I can't commit things to memory simply by reading them once. So I'd read it again, and then I would have to put notes because I play online on Roll20. So I would write notes on the game master level, a level only the game master can see. Notes to myself about what was in each room and what to remember and where the treasure was. Because one of the hardest things for me in running a pre-written adventure is remembering all the stuff that's in the rooms and the cities and who the people are and all that. I can't just commit it to memory. Because when you design something yourself, you remember something you wrote more easily than something someone else wrote. So even though I'm currently designing a big campaign while I'm a player in another campaign, I'm spending 2 or 3 months designing the first stages of this campaign. And there's stuff I wrote 2 months ago that when the players finally get to it, I'm going to have forgotten most of it, but it will take me almost no time to remember it because I wrote it. It's just how it goes. When you create something, you remember it more easily than when someone else created it. Brings me back again to preparation. You got to like doing it. And I started running, being a DM back when I was 14 years old. And I just loved to do it. And the reason I liked being a DM, aside from what I'm about to describe to you in the third tip, is I enjoyed designing the adventures. I didn't run the Vault of the Drow or the hill steading of the hill giant chieftain, I guess it was, or the fire giant, the halls of the fire giant king, or Tomb of Horrors because, well, I would have told you because it didn't fit my style or I was afraid of not running it perfectly. But really, the reason I didn't run those is I liked designing adventures. I enjoyed that preparation. It was almost as enjoyable as playing the game itself. That may not be the case for you, but I don't think there's any way around the preparation necessary to run a campaign. Because if you're running, say, a pre-written adventure, I do not think you want to be in the position where every time the players come into a new room, you got to say, okay, hang on a second. Let me just read this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's what's there. I mean, you get maybe one of those per game session. I don't like to do it. I feel it slows the game down. I feel it's my job to know what's in every room with a few exceptions where I want to just make sure I get it right. So you got to enjoy the preparation. You do. You've got to like thinking about the game. You got to like thinking about the game before it's played. And so here we come to the third, I think the most important tip for being a dungeon master. And it overlaps with preparation. Because one of the things you have to do when you prepare for running, especially if you're designing an adventure, I remember when I was writing, I wrote some adventures for Dungeon Magazine, and so they had their sort of rules for wannabe game designers to follow when they're running out, if you were trying to write out an adventure to submit to them. Again, Dungeon Magazine was a magazine that used to exist, used to be published by TSR and then Wizards of the Coast, where it was a magazine that just had 4 or 5 adventures in it. It was pretty cool, actually. And one of their pieces of advice, which I thought was great, was they said, always ask yourself, what if the characters can fly? I thought this was brilliant. As someone had been running for a while, I'm like, of course, you've got a tall, high wall or a crevasse or a pit, and you think, oh, that's going to slow them down. And then you forget the wizard just took fly and whoop, they go right over. You have to familiarize yourself with the player character's abilities a little bit, particularly if you're playing 5e, because they just accrue so many powers and spells in particular, so fast that sometimes one ability can just ruin an encounter. You're going to fight the Kraken. Oh, we can walk on water and we can breathe underwater, so we don't have to worry about our ship. Or we can fly. Or, oh, those creatures that are hiding in that little cave, or there's a hole into the cave. Well, I'll just shoot fireball inside of it. Oh, fireball. Let me tell you, 5e, once fireball shows up, it changes the game. It changes it. And I kind of hate that spell as a DM. Love it as a player. And so you got to, as you're designing your adventures, you've got to know what the players can do. So an encounter can't be overcome with just one spell or made incredibly easy with one spell. So you got to remember that. And it's not easy all the time. It means you got to go back through their spells. You got to go through the character. I know it's part of the game. I think if you're a dungeon master, I don't know any other way around it because I do not like it when the wizard or the druid or the cleric can just boom and the encounter's over. I think it's no fun for everybody. Maybe if they get lucky, it's okay, but just using a spell they have at their disposal and ending the encounter, it's very boring. It's very boring. But this brings me to the last tip. And I think this is the most important. This, I think, is where all the fun is. Preparation is fun. I hope. It's got to be fun. If you don't enjoy it, don't be a DM. Do something else. But probably not for you. But this, I think, is the most fun part. And it's why maybe you don't have to prepare as much as you think you might have to. Before I tell you about this, I'm gonna tell you a little anecdote that has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons. When I was 21, always wanted to be a writer since I was 13 years old. So I was interested in prose and poetry, but I'd started getting interested in theater. I'd done some acting. And of course, I couldn't help but think about writing my own stuff. And I started coming up with this idea for this play that seemed really cool to me. It was a little surreal. It was sort of like Ionesco or something like that. And it was sort of like a surreal coming of age story. And I could really see it in my mind. I could hear what the characters were saying and how they said it, and I could picture how they were going to move, and I could picture the choreography, and I was just seeing the play in my head until finally I was seeing it and seeing it. I finally said to myself, Bill, just write the thing down. So I did. Sat down at a typewriter, put in a piece of paper, and wrote the thing up. Changed a little bit as I wrote it, of course, because that always happens, as it does. That's what writing's about. So I wrote this. It was really just a scene. It wasn't a whole play. It was just the opening scene, essentially. And frankly, that's as far as it ever went. But it was enough because it gave me this experience. I wrote the thing up. I copied off a few copies because I knew at some point my brother and my good friend Chris came over. And both my younger brother, John, and my friend Chris, who still play D&D with us to this day. That's right. But this is back in the 80s. They came over and they're both actors. Yes, they both have acting experience. They both wanted to be actors. And so I said, hey, guys, I just wrote this really cool play. Let's read it. So I handed them scripts. I'm like, you play this and you play this and I'll play this and blah, blah, blah. Okay, ready? Let's go. And so action. And they started reading their parts. And that's when something magical happened. The words I had written and I had imagined being spoken in my head because as an actor myself, I had my own interpretations. I could picture how it was going to be said. The words I wrote and had imagined passed through their minds, their imaginations, and came out different. And this to me was the most beautiful experience of art I had had to this point. The thing I had written came to life. It wasn't just words on the page and it didn't need me. It came to life through them, through these other people. And I was so excited hearing them changing, in a way, almost the meaning of the words. It was thrilling, which brings me back to D&D. Again, about when I was 15, uh, I was designing this dungeon, and I used to, for a while, I would design traps and problems and provide the solution and the trap and the puzzle at the same time. So if there was a crevasse, I would have some boards nearby that they could cobble together to make a bridge. And if there was like a statue that shot lightning out of its eyes, there would be some coins stuck under somewhere you could take out and stick inside. So I provided the problem and the solution, the trap, the puzzle and the solution, the trap and the solution, all in the same thing. So I don't know why I did it that way. I thought that was my job as the DM. And one day I was designing this dungeon and I made a trap on this chest. And I say, okay, how am I going to help them know what the solution to the trap is? And then I said to myself, why? Why are you giving the solution? What if you just don't even know how they're going to solve it? What if you give them a problem and you have no idea how they're going to solve it? Again, I was only 15, and this was revelatory to me. And sure enough, the day came, they ran into the trap, and I got to watch them figure out how to solve it. Not watch them try to figure out the solution I had given to them. No, watch them come up with their own solution. And it was so exciting and so much more interesting than the way I used to do it. And from that moment forward, I never designed a problem and solution in the same moment, because it comes back to the most exciting part for me about being a dungeon master. First, there's a preparation. It's creative. I love it. It reminds me of writing, and I like it, and that's why I am usually the DM. But the other reason is I love not knowing what my players are going to do. Of me spending all this time designing this thing and putting the monsters here and the treasure there and the non-player character and here, and I have all this stuff designed out, and then I get to see what really happens when the players bring their own imagination to it, their own angle on things, their own sense of humor, their own strategy. It comes to life. To me, it comes to life when they bring themselves to it. And that's the most exciting thing. I just set the stage and they did the rest. And as a DM, the one mistake I most frequently make is thinking I know what they're going to do. And I know these guys. I've been playing with them since I was a teenager, and I am not a teenager now. And they still surprise me, and I still don't know what they're going to do. Sometimes I do, but almost always I'm wrong. And if I design some encounter certain that they're going to behave this way or take this action, they never do. And so the best advice I can give you if you want to be a DM is to remember you don't know what the players are going to do, and you don't want to know what they're going to do. That's where the fun is. It's not your job to orchestrate something. It's to set the stage and see what they're going to do. That's where the excitement is. That's where the fun is. That's where the game comes to life. Yeah, it's true. It's true, baby. You don't know what they're going to do. Let them do their thing. You just get to watch and play with them, but watch them, see what they're going to do. It's very exciting. It's very exciting to see what they're going to do. So learn the rules as best you can, but learn them. You got to do it. Someone's got to know it, and it should be you. Enjoy preparation. If you like to do a lot, great, do a lot. If you want to just do a little, okay. There is improvisation in dungeon mastering, and I don't just mean characters, by the way. And in another upcoming video, I think I'm going to do something on how to use improv and the way I've used it, I think, to great effect. Not just in character, not characters at all, but actually encounters. There's plenty of room for it, but I think preparation, very important for being a DM. Finally, wait and see what the players are going to do. Don't try to predict. Let them just do their thing and let yourself react to it. Yeah, that's where the fun is. And this game is about fun, isn't it? Yes, it is. Again, hit like and subscribe. That's going to be fun. If you got some stories got your own tips? Got your own tips for DM? I'm happy to hear it. Put it in the links. If I disagree, I'll say so, but maybe I won't. Who knows? Put it in. We'll find out. Yeah. Okay. And so until next time, this is Bill Kenower. Keep rolling dice. Keep having fun.